The cameras at Gainbridge Fieldhouse caught everything at that night except the part of the story that actually mattered. Caitlin Clark on the bench, towel across her lap, watching her own team make its best run of the night without her on the floor. She'd picked up her fifth foul late in the third quarter, and from the 8:41 mark of the fourth to the 3:16 mark, she sat 5.5 minutes. And in those 5.5 minutes, the team she has been dragging through this entire season went on a 13-3 run and tied the game without her. The face of the sport, the reason that arena sells out every single home night, the reason national television keeps showing up, tied it up while she watched from the bench. She came back with 3 minutes and 16 seconds left. Indiana lost 108-107. And anywhere else, that's where the story would settle. A coaching call, a coach who didn't burn a challenge on the foul, a coach who, at the podium, looked into the cameras after the loss and praised the group that had played without her star. The internet has already decided that's the whole story. A single video calling it a betrayal by head coach Stephanie White cleared 40,000 views in hours. Talk of a freeze-out, talk of an iced-out star, talk of jealousy, talk of a sideline grudge on the very night Clark's first signature shoe with Nike, the Caitlin 1, debuted on her own home floor. It is a clean, dramatic, made-for-clips narrative. It is also the wrong door. Because there is a person who put that coach in that chair. There is a person who built the roster around Clark. There is a person sitting 2 floors above that bench every night, out of every camera frame, who has never had to step to a microphone and explain a thing. Her name is Kelly Krauskopf, and the fact that you have probably never heard her say a single word about any of this is not an accident. It is the whole design. Before we walk up those stairs, look at what's actually happening on the floor. Because there is a version of this story where the star is slipping and the coach is reacting to a slump, and that version is what makes the freeze-out clips feel like they make sense. The problem is that version isn't real. Clark put up 26 points and 7 assists on the night she was benched. 5 nights earlier, she walked into Connecticut and dropped 25 points, 5 threes, and 5 assists. According to league records, that was the 10th time in her young career she has hit a line of at least 25 points, 5 threes, and 5 assists in a single game. That figure passed Sabrina Ionescu for the second most such games in WNBA history. Only one player in the entire league's existence has more, Diana Taurasi. The league saw it. They named Clark Eastern Conference Player of the Week the same stretch. Through the recent run of games, reports peg her near the top of the league in scoring and second in assists per game. Whatever is broken inside the Indiana Fever right now, it isn't her shot. It isn't her playmaking. It isn't her gravity, which is the reason the building keeps filling and the league keeps cashing checks off her name. She is, by any measurement available, playing some of the best basketball of her life. A coach who benches a player like that with the season on the line is either making a mistake or being made to make one. And as everything is about to lay out, Stephanie White was not, on that night, making a mistake of her own free will. She was managing a roster handed to her by someone else. Which is where the picture gets uncomfortable. Picture how the signature shoe night was supposed to go. A sold-out home crowd, cameras everywhere, a first-of-its-kind moment for a current WNBA player, her own Nike silhouette, her name in metal on the side, a release event that the league had been promoting for weeks. 26 points to christen the shoe, the image of the night by every reasonable script should have been Clark with her arms raised and the Caitlin 1 on her foot.
That is not the image that traveled. The image that traveled was Stephanie White showing up to the game in her old number 22 Fever jersey from her own playing days, paired with a custom set of Nikes. A single tweet pointed out that the coach had, intentionally or not, drawn attention away from her own franchise player on what was supposed to be the most personal night of Clark's professional career. Commentator Jason Whitlock amplified it. He wrote that the storyline around White was, in his word, fascinating. From there, the clips started stitching. every bench exchange between Clark and White from the previous month, the Portland loss in late May where White visibly gestured at Clark on the sideline, the moment Clark threw her arms up, the moment rookie Raven Johnson was subbed in for her, got pulled out of context and lined up in one feed after another. The narrative wrote itself. The coach is jealous, the coach is sabotaging, the coach iced her star on shoe night. It is worth saying, plainly, there is no evidence Stephanie White did any such thing. Rumors of a feud have spread fast, but rumors are what they are. Fans speculating, commentators stoking, clips replaying. The published reporting around the sideline exchange in the Portland game shows both Clark and White downplaying it. Reports indicate Clark called it two people being competitive, two people that really want to win. She added, "It's my life, used to it." Reports also indicate White said, on the record, "As far as we were concerned, the moment died right then." That is not the sound of a grudge. That is the sound of two competitive people moving on. But the rage clip economy doesn't move on, it feeds. And by the time Clark's fifth foul put her on the bench in the fourth quarter of the Atlanta game, the script for who to blame had already been drafted. The script just had a small flaw in it. The supposed victim of the freeze-out had already, days earlier, sat down in front of a camera and answered the question. Before we get to that interview, the Atlanta story has to be told all the way through. Because what happened 2 nights after the bench game is the part of this that should be making fans look up. The Fever flew to Atlanta on a back-to-back. The Dream had already beaten them in Indianapolis 108-101 on Thursday. Saturday night, in front of more than 17,000 fans at State Farm Arena, a building the Dream only get to play in a handful of times per season, it got worse. Atlanta hung 113 points on the Indiana Fever. According to multiple game recaps, that figure was a franchise record for the Dream, the most points the organization had ever scored in a single game in its entire history. Ryan Howard had 24, Alicia Gray 22, Naz Hillman 19, Jordan Canada 12, Angel Reese 18 points and 8 rebounds, and on her 6th rebound of the night, Reese became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,000 career rebounds, a milestone she hit, according to reports, in just 79 games. All 5 Atlanta starters scored in double figures for the second straight game against Indiana. Here is the part that should be unsettling. The Fever had actually led Atlanta 59-56 at halftime, shooting 61% from the floor and 60% from 3. Then the third quarter happened. Atlanta outscored them 28-15 in the third. The lead vanished, the defense vanished, the team folded. According to ESPN's recap, the loss marked the 4th time in 5 games the Fever had given up 100 points. That number is the one to sit with, because the defensive identity Indiana had been selling all season was supposed to be the answer. Earlier in the month, reports indicate, the Fever had held 4 of 6 opponents under their season scoring averages, 4 of them under 76 points. The line coming out of the front office had been clear: we won't outscore everyone, but we'll guard you. We'll be a team. We'll be a system. We'll be a championship culture. Then the same opponent, Atlanta, took that identity, set it on fire, and walked off with 2 wins in 3 days. A defense that collapses against the same team twice in a single week stops being a bad week and starts being something else. It starts being a ceiling. And ceilings in professional basketball are not set on the sideline. They are set on the construction floor, long before the ball ever goes up. The day before that Atlanta blowout, Caitlin Clark sat down with ESPN's Malika Andrews for an extended one-on-one interview. The clip was released on Friday and immediately began circulating. In it, she did almost no one commenting on her situation had done. She answered the question.
According to the published transcript, Clark said, "I think I'm easy to coach," and Steph would say the same thing. And I think at times, maybe difficult too, because I don't think there's many people that get guarded the way I do. So I think you have to be creative, scheme-wise, but I don't think there's a better person to do that than Coach Steph. She did not dodge. She did not hedge. She acknowledged the heat of the season, acknowledged that she is hard to scheme around, acknowledged that she and Stephanie White are two big personalities going at it on a sideline. And then she said, on national television, unprompted, that there is nobody better suited to coach her than the person currently coaching her. And then she went further. I love Coach Steph, Clark said in the same sitting. And I think what I love about her the most is her competitive fire is the same exact as mine. We'll go at it, but at the end of the day, we love each other so much, and that's what makes it fun. There's nobody else you'd want to go to war with if they're not going to be like that. That is not a player setting up her coach for a firing. That is a player walking onto national television and putting her own body between her coach and the people firing at her. She is taking responsibility for the scheme problem on herself. She is owning the heated sideline exchanges as competitive fire instead of dysfunction. She is, by every measurable signal, defending the most criticized person in the building. So here is the logic chain that follows. If the supposed victim of a freeze-out is, in her own words, ride or die with the coach, then the freeze-out story does not survive contact with reality. Which means something else has to explain why the best version of a Caitlin Clark team keeps showing up in the minutes Caitlin Clark is not on the floor. Someone built a roster where that math is even possible. Someone hired a coach who has to manage that math every single night and answer for it at every single podium. That coach didn't hire herself. That roster didn't build itself. 2 floors up, the architect doesn't say a word. Her name is Kelly Krauskopf. Her title is President of Basketball and Business Operations of the Indiana Fever. Not general manager, president, the strategy chair, the decision maker who sits above the general manager and the head coach and reports up to ownership. According to the team's own announcement when she came back in September of 2024, she was hired to lead what the franchise called an unprecedented time of growth for the sport. The release ran her resume. She ran this exact same franchise from 2000 to 2018. She built the only championship roster in Fever history, the 2012 team that defeated Minnesota in the finals. She spent 6 years inside the Indiana Pacers front office as their assistant general manager. She has been part of selecting USA basketball Olympic rosters for 3 different gold medal teams in 2004, 2008, and 2012. According to her Wikipedia biography and the team's own history, she was also the WNBA's very first director of basketball operations back in 1996, meaning she is, by tenure alone, one of the most experienced women's basketball executives alive. The Fever did not hire a rookie. They hired one of the people who literally built the foundation the league sits on top of. A few weeks after she came back, in November of 2024, she made the hire that put Stephanie White on the Indiana sideline. That same offseason, reports show, she brought in Amber Cox as general manager to handle the day-to-day. The titles tell the story. Cox executes, Krauskopf architects, White coaches whoever Krauskopf and Cox put in the locker room. The people taking the most public heat right now, the head coach at the podium, the franchise player on the bench, are working from blueprints that were drawn 2 floors above their heads. There has been exactly one moment this season where Krauskopf stepped close enough to a camera to draw real attention. According to a July 2025 report, she gave an interview in which she said she wanted the Fever to become an enduring brand beyond Clark, and she named Apple as her inspiration for how to build that brand. The clip began traveling hours before a Friday night game of all teams, the Atlanta Dream. Fans flooded the comments. Reports indicate her social media account was deleted within hours of the backlash. Whether the deletion was directly because of the comments is unclear. Speculation has swirled in both directions, but the timing alone told a story. The architect is not built to absorb heat the way coaches and players are. Coaches sign up for the post-game podium. Players sign up for the post-game microphones. Executives sign contracts that put them upstairs, where the cameras are not allowed. And the moment one of them stepped close to the lens, the response chased her right back out of it.
So she went back upstairs, and the camera went back to the coach. Now here is where the story gets strange in a way that no one is talking about. Because the woman currently letting Stephanie White stand at the podium and absorb the freeze-out clips every night is the same woman who 25 years ago made the first transaction of her professional executive career, a draft and a same-day trade that brought Stephanie White onto her roster for the very first time. According to franchise records, in December of 1999, Krauskopf, then the Fever's first general manager and president before the team had played a single regular season game, used a draft selection on a guard named Sandy Brondell and traded her that same day. The player coming back the other direction was a young guard named Stephanie White. Sit with that for a moment. The first professional move Kelly Krauskopf ever made as a basketball executive sent out the woman who is currently the head coach of the Toronto Tempo and brought in the woman who is currently the head coach of the Indiana Fever. The loop runs an entire generation. The architect kept circling back to the same coach. In 1999 as a player, in 2024 as the woman she put in charge of Caitlin Clark. And reports note something more uncomfortable about how this all happened. Krauskopf was not the executive who drafted Clark. That was Lynn Dunn in the spring of 2024, before Krauskopf came back to power. Krauskopf inherited Clark. She walked into a job where the most valuable asset in women's basketball, and, depending on who you ask, one of the most valuable assets in American sports right now, was already on the roster, already producing, already filling buildings every road game. According to ESPN's coverage of her hiring, the Fever had led the entire league in attendance, averaging more than 17,000 fans at home and more than 15,000 on the road before she'd done anything. The construction question was simple: surround her, build the system around her, get her shooting, defense, length, and a roster that fits the way she plays. It is worth saying directly, this is a person who has built a championship roster before. The 2012 title is hers. Her resume is what got her the job back. So the patience argument, they just need time, they haven't figured it out yet, runs into a problem. She has figured it out before. The blueprint 2 years in is producing a team whose best basketball happens in the minutes its franchise player sits down. That is a construction outcome, not a coaching outcome. And the construction has a designer. But the camera doesn't point upstairs, it points at the sideline. So the woman who hired the coach, hired the general manager, and stamped her name on the strategy gets to sit 2 floors above the bench and watch her own franchise player defend the woman she hired against the very fans the architect's design is failing. This is where the 1980s walk into the room. In November of 1981, the Los Angeles Lakers had a young superstar named Magic Johnson and a head coach named Westhead, who had won an NBA championship the year before. Magic, by every account, didn't fit Westhead's rigid offensive system. According to widely cited NBA history, Magic walked into a press conference and publicly demanded a trade. Within 24 hours, owner Jerry Buss fired Westhead and elevated assistant Pat Riley. The Lakers went on to win the title that same season and 4 more in the decade that followed. The lesson everyone took from the moment was about Magic forcing his will on the franchise. The deeper lesson, the one almost nobody talks about, was about the people upstairs. When the star spoke loudly enough that ownership had to answer, ownership turned out to be perfectly capable of making the right move very quickly. They just had to be forced to. That is the playbook a frustrated superstar can run. Force the front office into the camera. Make them step to a microphone. Make them answer for what they have or have not built. And speculation aside, it is the exact playbook Caitlin Clark seems determined not to run.
She is doing the opposite in every public statement she has made this season, defending her coach, calling her a person she'd ride with for life, taking the scheme difficulty on herself, brushing past the sideline exchanges. Reports indicate rumors have circulated for weeks about whether there is some organizational tension between Clark and the people running her franchise, but the player herself has refused every single time to validate any of it on camera. She has been, by any reasonable standard, the best teammate to her front office that a star could possibly be. That restraint is admirable. It also has a consequence. As long as the star keeps defending the coach, the cameras stay on the coach. As long as the cameras stay on the coach, the architect stays in the shadows. And as long as the architect stays in the shadows, nobody upstairs has to answer the construction question that is actually driving all of this. Why does the best version of this team keep happening when its franchise player is sitting down? Why does a roster sold as a defensive identity surrender a franchise record to the same team twice in 3 days? Why is a coach who has won Coach of the Year in this league being asked to win a fourth quarter without the best offensive player in the sport, while the woman who built that roster never has to take a single question? Indiana hosted Phoenix on Monday night. According to ESPN's recap, the Fever clawed back from a 13-point first-quarter hole and won 86-77. Clark had 24 points and 9 assists. Kelsey Mitchell added 22. The fourth quarter was, in ESPN's words, chippy. 6 technical fouls handed out between the two teams. Misha Hines-Allen ejected, and Clark herself picked up her 5th technical of the season after a brief exchange with former Fever teammate Tawana Bonner. Players reach an automatic 1-game suspension at 8. According to reports, Clark called the technical ridiculous after the game. Half joking, she said, in published quotes from the postgame, that everyone might as well just circle the calendar date she's going to get suspended on if she's getting texts for clapping. Stephanie White, asked about Clark's foul trouble, said only she's got to be aware. So even on a win night, the same shape repeats. The star carrying the team, the coach managing fouls and pressure, the president nowhere on camera. Here is the closing question. Strip away the bench video, strip away the freeze-out clips, strip away the Caitlin 1 drama and the Stephanie White outfit posts and the 40,000-view rage threads. Strip away the rumors of a sabotage no participant has ever confirmed. What is left? A roster that lost twice to the same team in 3 days. A defensive identity that surrendered a franchise record to a team it was supposed to outwork. A franchise player who looks at the camera and protects her coach with both hands. A coach who steps to the podium and praises a 5-minute stretch that worked because the best player in women's basketball wasn't on the floor. Somebody built that. Somebody hired her. Somebody is sitting 2 floors up tonight watching it happen, watching her franchise player save her front office one more time by refusing to put their name in the camera frame. The cameras have been pointed at the wrong door this entire time. The only question that actually matters is how long it takes before someone, Clark, the league, the fans, the media, anyone, finally walks them up the stairs.